regular meeting of the police jury dated Thursday, February 3rd, 2011. We'll have the invocation by Mr. Spell, followed by the pledge. If you'll stand.
Thank you, and if everyone would join me in welcoming Monsignor Dubois from St. Theodore's Catholic Church in Moss Bluff, and he's graciously going to do the invocation for us this evening.
Thank you. Let us bow our heads in prayer, please. Our Father God, who are sending your Spirit into the hearts of these jurors, seeking to bring service and harmony to this civil community, may they, with open minds and receptive hearts, receive your Spirit, and with you strive to make service and harmony a reality in our day. Give us grace to take to heart the dangers involved in unhappy divisions and unhallowed differences. Remove from us all that hurts our unity of spirit and all that hinders our forward march together. Kindle in us the fire of your redeeming love. Strengthen us by your power and draw our civil community ever closer together. Amen.
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 Thank you, Monsignor. Everyone, please face the flag and follow after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Sir, Mr. Anderpar?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnham?
Here.
Mrs. Griffin called and said she would be unable to attend this evening. Mr. Guidry? Mr. Hassan?
Here.
Mr. Landry? Here. Dr. Mackey?
Present.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Spell?
Here.
Mr. Stelly?
Here.
Mr. Sias?
Present.
Mrs. Trimmy? Here. President Brame?
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. If anybody in the audience would like to speak on any item agenda tonight, there's some blue cards in the back of the room. If you just fill them out and bring them up front to Jessica, we'll make sure you have that time to speak on that item. And also, if you have any cell phones, if you just silence them for us, we appreciate it. With that said, we'll move to item 5. Take appropriate action on applications for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Vickers.
Mr. President, we have 3 applications. We recommend they all be
So
approved.
move.
Got to have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 6, consideration of
Move on,
approval of
6.
all payment of all current invoices. A motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Farnham. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 7, presentation of plaque to Ms. Cheryl Heiser, Director of Human Resources, in recognition of appreciation of 32 years of service to the citizens of Calcasieu Parish. Mr. Bean.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is becoming a bi-monthly event, it seems like, but we've got another long-term employee retiring, and we want to recognize her tonight. And if you'll indulge me to give a few comments for Cheryl, and then ask her to come up in a few minutes. It'll be a little while, Cheryl. You can sit down. It's long enough. That's right. We're all rolling with the punches today. Let me thank everybody for coming, of course, at 3:30, but it's an important meeting for many reasons, and this is one of them. I'm very pleased tonight to join the police jury in recognizing Cheryl Heiser for her outstanding career with the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. Cheryl is retiring after 32 years of distinguished service with the parish. Now, many of you probably think of human resources when you think of Cheryl, which is appropriate, but you may not know she actually worked more years in the job training office. Cheryl was hired originally by the parish in February of 1979 as a planner/research analyst with CETA after obtaining her college degree from Northeast Louisiana University, which is now ULM, and after a couple of years with the Ouachita Parish Police Jury. Now, CETA stands for Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, and that name, the name of that office has changed more in the last 30 years than a snake sheds its skin, but I guess that's how the state wants it. Many of you will remember that program probably, but if not, its next incarnation was JTPA, and just after 3 years, it didn't take long for Cheryl's leadership qualities to stand out, and she became director of that office, Job Training Partnership Act. During Cheryl's tenure as JTPA director, the parish's job training program was honored for quality performance numerous times by state and federal government agencies, as well as others locally, such as the Private Industry Council, or PIC, another acronym. That's now known as the Workforce Investment Board. We don't do this, guys. For anybody listening, the state chooses this, so they do make it confusing, but it's all workforce development. Let me quote from a couple of folks who are close to Cheryl. Jan Hayworth, who is Cheryl's counterpart in the Alexandria area, says that she has the highest respect for Cheryl. She states that in our roles, we felt like we made a real difference in our citizens' lives. Cheryl was such an inspiration, and she gave me ideas that I used and got awards for that she should have received. I am proud to call her my friend. Lee Thibodeau, who many of you know, and was the chairman of the local job training board many years, states that Cheryl and I worked together on committees for many years. Reflecting on some of her strong qualities, there is no question that her professionalism is her trademark. She always respected others' views, yet would not compromise her values. She was always prepared and ready to face her challenges. Now, even today, after being Human Resources Director for many years, Cheryl is still consulted on a regular basis for job training advice, and I know Stephanie's appreciated that, and Mary and others, and she continues to be of help to that office. But speaking of human resources, how did she become director in that office? Well, in August of 1998, our HR director at that time left for another position, and Mark McMurray approached Cheryl to offer her the position, and we're all glad she accepted. Now, although it was short notice, it was no surprise that Cheryl transitioned to become an excellent human resources director. Mark recognized that many of Cheryl's skills honed in the job training area would transfer well into the HR arena, and they did. He was right. Now, it is in the role of the HR director that I've come to know Cheryl the most. She has advanced the practice of human resource management in this organization greatly over the past 13 years. It's evolved as a field in our organization, and she's mainly responsible for that. Cheryl worked vigorously to perform a comprehensive update of the Human Resources Policy Manual in 2000. And that is no small task. It hadn't been done in several years, and I can remember going into Cheryl's office. We'd cover several drafts, and literally about a foot-high stack of drafts were on her desk, and it was an enormous task. But this serves all 560-plus employees we have in our organization. They again updated, her and her staff, in 2007, the policy manual, because we didn't want to get too far behind, and that too was another great accomplishment under Cheryl's watch. Also, many special service districts, like the fire districts and drainage and so forth, use the parish's HR policy manual as its document, or they use pieces of it that apply. So it's not just for our organization, it helps a whole lot of other districts. Cheryl's also been responsible for establishing effective information and ID systems for employees to use in the event of emergencies. Cheryl, I almost called you today to get ID tags for all the employees. I didn't have the heart. Since we'll get to this later, we are going to be closed tomorrow, but joking aside, when a hurricane threatens, within literally a day, she and her staff have to get several hundred ID tags distributed, because we all are a little guilty of losing those if we keep them all year. So that is a major task, and this was all set up after Rita, as well as all sorts of information on employees, so that when they leave, we're able to know how to keep up with them and them us. Cheryl's latest achievement is to update the contract with the employee union, which is no small task, considering that hadn't been done since 1989. It's actually on your agenda tonight. It's not an amendment or anything, but there's a lot of wording that needed to be updated, and I wasn't going to let her go without that, because there's no way somebody could figure that one out. It's a little too complicated. Cheryl's been active in associations throughout her career. She served as president of the Louisiana Service Delivery Area Directors Association. She's been active in the Society for Human Resources Management, Women's Commission of Southwest Louisiana, United Way, Southwest Louisiana Literacy Coalition, and many, many others. And before I ask Cheryl to come up to the podium, there are a few things you need to know about Cheryl. First, she's a world-class documenter. Everyone at the police jury knows that Cheryl will always have the best notes from meetings. So if you're in the meeting with her, we pretty much just put the pen down and say, get Cheryl's notes afterwards. That's very well known, and she keeps great records. Just to give you an example, I went through her personnel file to get some background, a little more detail that I might not have known. I came across a receipt in Cheryl's personnel file from November of 1993. Now, this is just the other day, that she had saved from receiving some petty cash from purchasing. So I guess she's saving it just in case somebody ever says, what happened to that petty cash? That was, 17 years ago, but that gives you a sense of the type of documentation she keeps. And in that position, it is critical. We tease her about it, but it is a very important thing to have. Secondly, Cheryl loves the color green. Now, you're going to make me look bad tonight because you're wearing black, but she wears green, usually a kiwi or a lime. Is that right, Jessica? That's right. She uses green ink pens for anything that's not official documents. Her eyes are green, and I have no doubt she dreams in the color green. And Lexi, her daughter, is right there next to her. Lexi, you probably could tell me what else is green at your house, but if you know Cheryl at all, you know that's her favorite color. Cheryl also enjoys traveling, and as a matter of fact, the day after her last day, which is next Friday, she and the family, and I know Alan's here too in the back, are going to set sail on a cruise, and so I know she's looking forward to that, and we want to wish her well. But at this time, Cheryl, if you'll come on up to the podium, we want to present you with a plaque, and let me just say, personally, on behalf of the jury, we are so happy that you have been here for the last 32 years, and thank you for your commitment. You've been a wonderful HR director and workforce center director, and it's meant a lot to the parish. And thank you so much.
Well, I know it's cold outside, but I'm feeling warm and fuzzy now. Well, I did prepare a few notes, and I'm probably going to repeat some of Brian's information. I had no idea he was going to look through my files so extensively, but I knew he had it for about a month up there, but I didn't really remember that receipt from 18 years ago, but anyway. In 1979, I came to the police jury as a young girl with a new college degree, and for those of you who may remember, a very long head of hair. Brian, you didn't put that in there, so. Now I'm leaving as hopefully a much wiser middle-aged woman. But to put this into perspective, when I began here, you didn't say this either, Brian, Jimmy Carter was the president, and Rod Stewart's song, Do You Think I'm Sexy, was #1 on the charts. That was a long time ago. I came on board as an assistant planner for the CETA program, and in fairly short order, I was appointed to the director position. I served 19 years in the parish's federally funded employment and training program with its many name changes, yet I remained involved in some capacity with that program for the entire 32 years that I've been employed with the police jury. Thousands of people walked through the doors and were served by that program. It received many awards and accolades during that time period, but the credit is due to the staff. A lot of them are here tonight, and I appreciate that, especially with a storm coming. There are too many of my coworkers to name, but I will remember fondly my lifelong friendships I have made, and I hope that my most special friends know who they are. They are truly dedicated public servants who represent the police jury well every day. 13 years ago, I was offered the Human Resources Director position, and I can say now that I had no idea what I was getting into at all. A job description doesn't mean much, I'll just say that. Human resources work is very challenging, but I have seen progress during my tenure regarding parish policies, work efficiency, staff development, and equitable treatment of all employees. I must acknowledge my HR staff and what an excellent professional group of women they are. And they're here too. I would also like to thank my supervisors over the years, my fellow department heads, my colleagues and coworkers. I have enjoyed learning and working with them and getting to know them as friends. Because I mainly worked with internal departments of the police jury, I did not have the opportunity to work directly with the police jurors, nor did I stand at this podium very often, but I did sit in the back of this room many nights and hear the police jurors acknowledge the skill levels and good works of administration and the parish workforce on numerous occasions. Because I have basically worked with employees and workforce development programs for my entire career here, I can say without a doubt that the employees truly are Calcasieu Parish's most valuable asset. While the police jury has millions of dollars in fixed assets and owns many fine buildings, facilities, and parks, it's the people, the employees, that are most important, because they are fulfilling the parish's mission of delivering the highest quality service to Calcasieu Parish residents each and every day. I would encourage the jurors and the department heads to continue to acknowledge their employees at every opportunity, because a sincere pat on the back is always appreciated. During my past few months, as my retirement has drawn near, my coworkers and I have reminisced many past projects and situations that we encountered at work. Some of the issues were serious and difficult at the time, and the exact details may be a little hazy to me now, but somehow all of the stories seem to have taken on a comical and humorous tone. Selective memory is a good thing, and I will take with me only the fondest memories of my time here. And if I may offer a few personal comments to my family, over the past years, I've watched my stepsons, Josh and Travis. They're not here, but I have seen them grow from young boys into two fine men, employed now and on their own. I'm very proud of them. My daughter, Lexi, is my little miracle. Where are you? There she is. She challenges me every day, but keeps me young and brings me much joy. And because of her, I have been allowed to have the most important job in the world, being her mother. And to my husband, Alan, who has supported me through my career by adjusting personal and work schedules in order for me to work full-time and be at meetings all these many years. And he has probably had to listen attentively when I came home on occasion and vented about a bad day at the office. He is an avid and very good golfer, and he thinks he wants me to take up the sport with him. So I'll take a few lessons and see how that goes, but I'm not making any promises. I do extend my gratitude and love to my family tonight. It's a bittersweet time for me, but I'm so happy to have made it to retirement. I have no long-term plans other than to take a cruise to the Caribbean next week, catch up on my scrapbooking, travel at every opportunity, but mostly slow down for a while and enjoy life and my family more, all made possible by the parish's excellent retirement system. I have truly enjoyed my years here. I still think public service is a noble profession. The police jury is a great employer, and I wish it continued success through the many years ahead.
Cheryl, just probably have a few jars. Like to say a few things to you. First of all, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure my 6+ years of being here, getting to know you, and I just want to thank you for your 32 years of service. It means a lot. So it's been great. Any other jurors have anything they'd like to say? Go ahead, Mr. Spell.
Cheryl, I don't think I was qualified during the Jimmy Carter administration to be working with you at that time, but I just wanted to say that in the last 3 years, I just want to reiterate one of your comments: professionalism by you and your staff, and leadership on down. So that professionalism, it starts at the top, and I just want you to know that I thought that was very important, and your staff represents you well, and they do a great job. You've done a great job. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dr. Mackey.
I want to just comment on one thing. Cheryl may not even remember it, but she talked to my Kiwanis Club at one
I
time.
do remember that.
And when she did, they thought the police jury was way up here after she talked to them. And I appreciated
I
that
do
very
remember
much.
that, yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Cheryl. You taught me early on to stay out of HR business, and I've learned that in the 12 years that I've been here, just to turn it over to y'all. If somebody comes to us for a job opportunity, we can get them an interview, and with one phone call to you, we could usually get an interview. And I appreciate what you did with those folks. Some of them got hired, and some of them didn't. But you've always been the utmost professional when it came to that type of business. Thank you, and we're going to sincerely miss you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl. Anybody else?
Can I get a picture with Alan? And
Yeah.
Come up.
Sure.
President Brady.
Would Mr. Heiser like to share a few words with us on his wife's retirement? We would love to hear basically what he's got in plan for her at this point in time. We would love to hear from you, Alan.
I've never been to a police jury meeting. I don't know what
I told him this was the one and only he could come.
This is good with that camera.
She's excellent.
Yeah.
I don't want to be holding up the meeting.
Who would listen?
Thank you.
Mr. Bean.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take this opportunity just for a moment on this item to introduce to you the new Human Resources Director. I guess she's still designee for another week, Ms. Christina Joyce Wilson. And after that, while we're here tonight, Mr. Charles Burton, our new Information Systems Director, so y'all can get to meet them in person. But if Christina would come on up to the podium, Ms. Christina Joyce Wilson is a local graduate, Sulphur High School. She holds 2 degrees from Centenary College up in Shreveport. She actually worked for the police jury back in 2006 in Human Resources as training coordinator. Since then, she has left and been owner-president of her own very successful business, Envision Learning. We were very pleased to have her show interest in this position. I think a great deal of Christina. She's going to do a great job from us, and she's been learning a lot from Cheryl the past several weeks. But at this time, let me introduce her and allow her to say a few comments. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, and hello to everyone and to all the jurors. I just want to say how honored I feel to join the police jury team. As Cheryl and both Brian had talked about, it's just such a wonderful group of employees, and I feel very blessed and honored to join that team. I know that Cheryl is leaving quite a legacy of accomplishment, and please know that I'm committed to continue that progress. I believe in integrity. I believe in leadership. I truly believe in employee development, and I really want to bring those pieces to the HR department and just continue the great work that Cheryl has done. So thank you so much for letting me join the team, and I'm excited to be here. Anything that you guys need, definitely know that we're here for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christina. I'd like Charles Burton to come up. Charles, if you come to the podium. Charles is a graduate of St. Louis High School and McNeese State University. Since 2005, he served as a network operations manager for the school board. We're not above stealing sometimes, and it's our gain. We're very fortunate to have him here. He's been with the school system a long time. He's already made great strides in information systems, or IT as it's more normally called, I guess. But we appreciate him being here, and we're glad that he's on board. And let me introduce Charles Burton.
Thank you, Brian. I don't have really a whole lot of words to say, but I just want to thank you all for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to a challenging, position with technology in the parish. And thank you all.
Thank you, Charles.
Thanks.
Dr. Charles.
I just want to comment, I love your tie. You've got humor, I can tell you right now.
I thought it would be interesting, but I think it's a little distracting.
No, I love it. I love it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, Mr. Beam, I think to be politically correct, we're very well at acquiring things, and I think he'd be a great acquisition.
Thank you, Dennis. I think you worded it much better than I did.
All right. Okay, we're going to go to item 8. Mr. Sawyer has requested that this item be moved to the police jury's regular meeting on Thursday, February 16, 2011. And with that said, well, before we go to the next item, I'd like to call Mr. Dick Grimion up to the podium to give us an update and report on the weather conditions. Dick, just state your name and position with the parish, please.
Dick Grimion, Director, Calcasieu Parish Office, Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Earlier today, we filed our disaster declaration for the parish. If you've been keeping up with the weather, you know that we are expecting some bad weather starting as early as a couple of hours from now. So we'd urge everyone to get home as quickly as possible. The situation is it's about 32 degrees, 33 degrees out there right now. If the temperature drops off a couple more degrees, all of the water that you see outside is going to freeze over. We're expecting a 100% chance of precipitation from now through probably mid-morning tomorrow. The temperature is not expected to rise above freezing until about 10 or 11 in the morning, so we've urged everyone to try to go home early, get your business taken care of, and get off the roadways as quickly as possible, and not come back out until after this situation is cleared tomorrow, probably around noon or after. There will be some rain lingering through the afternoon hours, so we're not real sure what the road conditions will be. The other thing that may happen, there's now a prediction of accumulation of ice of up to 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. If that happens, it's most likely we'll have some power outages around the area. That will be unknown until tomorrow morning probably. But we have spoken to Energy. They have crews ready, as I'm sure Beauregard Electric and the other electric co-ops are ready as well. So those are the two major issues, the traffic conditions. And again, we urge people not to go out after they get home unless it's just absolutely necessary, and the potential for power outages tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And I'd
Dick.
be happy to entertain any questions.
Mr. Bing,
Right, just after any questions,
does anybody have any questions from Mr. Grimion?
Very clear.
Okay, do we need to ratify the
Yeah.
proclamation? Okay.
we need a motion.
I need a motion.
moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Guidry to ratify the proclamation of a pending state of emergency. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Dick, thank you for the report. At this time, I'd like to go to item 14, 15, and 16. Then we'll come back to item 9. Item 14, take appropriate action on the request by Creative Casinos LLC that the police jury call a referendum election on April 30th, 2011, as required by Article 12, Section 6 of the Louisiana Constitution relating to the operation of a riverboat casino to be berthed on land belonging to the Lake Charles Harbor and Terminal District situated in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Mr. Guidry.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Secretary, just for the record, I would like to recuse myself for this item here. Thank you.
And I also like to read the agenda note. Creative Casinos LLC has committed to reimburse the police jury for costs relating to this election if held. And with that, we'll go to item.
Under discussion?
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
What-
Mr. McMillan.
I do see Dan Lee in the audience. I don't know, it's an opportunity that it could be a really big casino built here in Calcasieu Parish. I didn't know if the jury would want to hear from Mr. Lee on this project any at all while we have him here. Or would you want to speak on it or not? I guess, Mr. Lee, if
Yeah, come on up to the mic, Mr. Lee.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hate to keep everybody ahead of this freezing rain that's coming, but
Dan, just state your name.
my name is Dan Lee. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Creative Casinos, which is a new company that I created in order to build a resort where Sugarcane Bay was supposed to go, and the name of that resort is Mojito Point, and it's a 400-room casino hotel, similar in size to the original L'Auberge, with an 18-hole golf course and actually 2 hotels. The rooms are broken down into, the hotel's broken into 2 hotels, and really designed to complement L'Auberge and help bring Lake Charles to a next higher level. The reason for this action and why we asked for it is the Gaming Commission is trying to decide between 3 applicants for the 1 license. One of those applicants is an existing casino company that would move an existing riverboat they have to New Orleans. The other 2 are both here, and by taking this action now, we can get on the April 30th ballot. If we don't take this action now, it slides into the October ballot, and frankly, I'd like to get going sooner rather than later, so it's getting us going 6 months sooner. And the Gaming Commission has said that they're going to make a decision on February 17th. They'll announce their decision. We hope it's us, and if it's us, we'd be underway in the fall. And it would open approximately 2 years thereafter. It takes about 2 years to build, and it's a $400 million place and a couple thousand jobs. And I didn't really prepare anything, but that's.
Thank you, Dan. I think
I
Mr.
know it's a little
McMillan.
premature, but if you do get the license, will you come back and give us a full-blown?
Sure, I'd be happy
information
to. And
of
in fact, I said to Billy, I said, I got big posters back in my hotel room. I wish I'd known you were going to ask. I would have brought them. So be happy to come back next time.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Mr. McMillan. Okay, we'll go to item 15. I did get a motion and a second on that. We'll go to item.
Did they vote?
We didn't vote. Okay. Is there any discussion? Any objection?
Maybe I could add one thing. We coordinated with one of the other bidders, so that's your item 15. So whichever one is chosen by the Gaming Commission, you'll be able to move quickly in Lake
Yes, sir.
Charles. So.
Yes, sir. Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll go to item 15.
Move on 15.
Take appropriate action on a request by St. Gabriel Downs LLC that the police jury call a referendum election on April 30th, 2011, as required by Article 12, Section 6 of the Louisiana Constitution relating to the operation of a riverboat casino to be berthed on land belonging to the city of Lake Charles, situated in Calcasieu Parish. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. McMillan. And I'm going to read the agenda note real quick, and then I'll go to Mr. Bean. St. Gabriel Downs LLC has committed to reimburse the police jury for costs relating to this election if held. Mr. Bean.
I just want to mention briefly that we spoke with Deborah Harkins representing St. Gabriel Downs today, and she did intend to be here, but she checked, and the weather being very bad east of here, she understandably was not able to make it. But I just wanted to clarify that they did check in, and if you need any information from them, they are available.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Guidry will recuse himself this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay.
For the record.
Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 15 will carry. We'll go to item 16. Consideration of adopting a resolution providing covenants of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury with the electoral of Calcasieu Parish pertaining to a special election to be held parish-wide if needed on April 30, 2011 for a referendum on whether an additional riverboat casino shall be berthed within Calcasieu Parish if a license for such is formally awarded by the Louisiana Gaming Control Board. I have a motion by Mr. Farnham and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Mr. Guidry, do you have any?
Yes, I would also like to recuse myself.
Okay,
from
Mr. Guidry
item also.
himself
Thank you, Mr.
on
President.
item 16. Okay, Mr. Sides, go ahead.
So which one is this one right here, Brian? Number 16.
Mr. Bean?
I know the first one we talked about, Mr. Lee talked about the one that was going to be presently located around Sugarcane LaBerge. This other one, St. Gabriel, is the one that they were talking about. It was going to be located in Lake Charles. Was going to be in Lake Charles. What is this one? What is this one right here?
Number 16 is a covenant resolution that we as a staff felt would be helpful for you to pass, just to clarify that if one of the two license applicants or one of the companies was awarded the license, this would give President Brame authority to tell the Secretary of State or ask the Secretary of State to withdraw the other request. If neither are awarded here and it goes to the Harvey Casino or doesn't get awarded at all, you would be giving Mr. Brame authority to pull both items.
Okay.
So it just sort of wraps up everything in a nice little package.
Okay. But we're not really, so we're voting for him to be able to make a motion and move to the Secretary of State.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sides. Any other further discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. And now we'll go back to item 9. Receive report from staff with reference to the ordinance recently adopted by the Lake Charles City Council pertaining to sex offender registrations. Mr. Smith.
Mr. President, members of the jury, we met in the district attorney's office yesterday at 11 o'clock. The district attorney was present. He had been assisted by Carla Sigler on his staff with some research. Lake Charles Police Chief Don Dixon was present, and the city's lawyer, Billy Lofton. Sheriff Tony Mancuso was present, and his attorney, Stephen Dwight, and my partner, Ed McGuire, accompanied me. We spent a long time talking about the ordinance which had been passed by the city, some of the issues that confronted all of us who were there. And the first thing that the district attorney did was caution against haste. This ordinance for the city of Lake Charles does not take effect until July of this year, so that gives us time to do our job properly. The first thing that happened was that the district attorney counseled Billy Lofton that there may be a potential problem with the city's ordinance, and Billy has agreed to work on an amendment, which he'll share with all of us, but of course it'll be presented to the Lake Charles City Council. The sheriff has agreed to do a financial audit concerning his cost of his office from having to administer this program. I can tell you that both law enforcement people were very positive about getting any additional funding that they could to administer these two programs, which essentially are mandated but unfunded by the state of Louisiana. The third thing was that I can tell you we're in contact with the Attorney General's office to discuss several issues. I've asked them to assist us and advise us on those issues. It's going to take a while to accumulate this information, which will come back probably to me. It looks like I'm the point man. I told somebody who called me about it that I wasn't the only one who took a position saying let's use CARE. I just was the one on TV announcing it. Anyway, I would presume I would be able to get back with you all within maybe a month, 30 days. I don't know how long it's going to take the sheriff to do his thing. I don't know how long it's going to take the city to amend their ordinance. There was a question about indigency. And so their ordinance was not quite clear about that, and they needed to match the state statute more. So that's my report. I'll get back with you all as soon as I have this information, and I will give you all the conclusions and my advices.
Move to receive report.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Size to receive report and a second by Mr. Spell. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 9 will carry. We'll move to item 10.
Move on 10.
Consideration of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated January 6, 2011. A motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 11, consideration of approving the agenda committee report dated January 27, 2011. I have a motion by
Move on 11.
Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 12, consideration of approving the Public Works Committee report dated January 27, 2011.
We want 12 all bullets. All bullets.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Size on item 12 and all bullets, and a second by Mr. Andrepont. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read a little bit of 12.1. I'm going to let Mr. Andrepont address that. Is that okay? Item 12.1, receive report from staff with reference to the I-10 bridge lighting project. Mr. Andrepont.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the jury, I'll be very brief. And while I'm making a presentation, Tim, if you'll come to the podium, then you can take the ball after I drop it. We had a meeting yesterday in Baton Rouge reference to the lighting on the bridge. It was Mr. Calavito, who is the Deputy Secretary, hosted the meeting. There were several engineers in the meeting, structural and electrical and so on and so forth. The first 30 minutes of the meeting, I might just add, was nothing but detailed, bureaucratic, you-know-what. After we got past that, we really got down to business, and it was really fruitful after that point. There was a lot of things discussed, why present lights wouldn't work, and we do whatever, and Tim can cover all of that. But let me just tell you that we finally agreed that there's probably going to be a pilot program with the lighting on the bridge with some stipulations, of course. They're very careful not to commit on any issue. They're very defensive on these kind of things. With that being said, I'll yield to you, Tim, and you can go from here.
Tim, just state your name and
Tim Connor, Assistant Parish Engineer.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did have a good meeting, I thought. It ended on a good note. From Lake Charles area, we had Steve Giles, the district administrator that was there. From the city, we had Mr. Edwards, as well as Woody Lechtenberg, who did the design, and then Mr. Andrepont and myself. And I'm not sure I'll be able to convince Mr. Andrepont to go to another meeting with a room full of engineers, but we did have a good meeting.
Let me just interrupt you. I told Tim, I said, I've never been in a meeting with engineers, and if you've never been in a meeting with engineers, don't.
But we did end on a good note, and as Mr. Andrepont said, they did decide in the end that they would do a pilot program where we could put approximately 7 lights up. We'll monitor those for a few months, and if all goes well, we may be able to complete the lighting on the bridge. So that is in the works. The city is going to be working with their engineer to provide the data that the DOTD has requested, and they're going to review that, and then hopefully we can move forward from that point.
Good, thank you, Tim. Mr. Spell.
Mr. Andrew Pont, you sat in several meetings with me. I'm not sure how to take that. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, is there any other, Mr. Stelly, go ahead.
What is the cost of this pilot program? What kind of cost are we talking about?
We didn't go into too many details on cost, but it was our understanding at the meeting that the manufacturer had agreed to donate some of those lights. So I think it would be very minimal.
5
Lights, light poles with the lights on them.
But Brian, where are we as a jury in the parish? What are we putting up for these lights?
As of now, the plan, which got scuttled until the other day, yesterday, called for, I think, $450,000 total, of which the police jury committed $164,000. Tim, does that sound correct? The city of Lake Charles committed an equal amount. There was $92,000 from the state, and then Westlake put up, I believe, $30,000.
But that was the first.
No, the first round, the whole thing was about $100,000.
Yeah, but the second was 400 something.
Right, and that's today. That's already been approved by you. If they are able to do all that under that same cost amount, you don't have to approve anything else.
So, with the new proposal, we're still looking at about the same amount of money, regardless of where this thing goes?
I'm not sure until I think they get a little more information, but it doesn't sound like if it were successful that it would be more than now, but Tim might have a different answer.
We're working within that budget.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stelly. Mr. Size.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is there any way that we can make the I-10 12A and 210 12B, because having them together, because I like to know, I don't want us to not move forward on this I-210 piece also. We have, we came in with what we have as an estimate, and so now we're gonna need a driving force to make sure that we decide we're gonna go in that direction. With them being both together, understand what I'm saying? Because what is after we got the report on what we're gonna do with I-210, what is the path forward on that?
You want to cover that?
Well,
Mr. Connor, just that.
I guess it's really going to be somewhat dependent on the jury and the direction they want to go.
Right.
If they do decide to pursue that, we have to do a resolution, go to DOTD, and where we agree to pay or commit to 10% of the match money, as well as accept all responsibility for the liability and the maintenance. Right. And it's a matter of priority, I guess, I-10 versus I-210.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I want to separate them, to make sure that we don't get bogged down with I-10 and then forget about the 30-year bridge, 210 that does have, the fixtures for the lights, and make sure that we do, move forward on that.
Thank you, Mr. Size. Mr. Andrew Pont.
One more thing I failed to mention. One of the things that was discussed yesterday was the new bridge. And don't look for it to start for the next 10 or 12 years. I mean, that's basic fundamentals. That's, and of course, what they said yesterday doesn't mean when we say 10 to 12 years, that's when construction begins. That's just kind of like preliminary work. So, anyway, it was interesting.
Thank you, Mr.
But I do feel like it was fruitful. I really do.
And I think the meeting that we were in Tuesday with the
very
state
fruitful
officials
as well.
was a very good meeting. Mr. McMillan was there also. Okay, is there any other further discussion?
Move to receive report.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Andrew Pont to receive report. Second by Mr. Hassan. I had a motion on all bullets, all right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to 12.2. A resolution be adopted to execute the necessary documents for donation of right-of-way from Presley Park Development on Goodman Road in Ward 3. Bullet 12.3, recommended that Calcasieu Parish Project...
On all bullets.
2010-06 overlaying of various roads in Calcasieu Parish of Louisiana be accepted as substantially complete. 12.4 recommended that Calcasieu Parish project 2010-08 overlaying of various roads in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana be accepted as substantially complete. 12.5 recommend that the ordinance be adopted amending the code of ordinances of Calcasieu Parish to establish a no-through trucks on Benton Big Woods Road in Ward 5 and 7. And I have a motion.
So moved. Oh, wow, that was all in.
Yeah, I have a motion and a
Yeah, we
second.
already received the motion all.
Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 12 carries. Sorry, let me get my page right here. Okay, item 13, no action. From there, we'll go to 17. Consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing Alan L. Smith, Jr., General Counsel to the Police Jury, to contract with and engage legal representation from David L. Sigler and Associates, specialty issues and litigation, including representation by Cade R. Cole concerning redistricting and related intergovernmental affairs. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Stelly.
Mr. President.
Mr. Bain.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'd like for Cade to come up so some of the police jurors that may not know Cade, we could introduce Cade to them. Cade represents my High Hope area gravity drainage board, so I've worked with him. He's a brilliant young man. I'm thrilled to have him on this project. I think he'll be a tremendous help with the redistricting. But I would like to introduce Cade Cole to this police jury and maybe let him say a little bit on his own behalf.
Okay, just state your name, address for the record.
Sure. Cade Cole, 2736 Rue Calais, Lake Charles. Mr. President and drawers, I know everyone wants to get out of here, so I'll just be short and say that I appreciate the chance to support Alan and Brian in this important task of providing all the information that you need to do this critical project. And Brian has some more information on the calendar and some population statistics we worked on today. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Cade. Mr. Size. Cade, you want to come back to the podium?
Yeah, before we go away, I wish we would have got this little piece here a little bit earlier, because I'm just wanting to make sure that that we make sure that we're aware of all the different deadlines and we have to meet. Who else is involved with this? Are we, the jurors, have any piece too?
The way we are going forward, Mr. Sias, is that under administration, me and Alan, Cade will work closely with us, and he'll be the primary one doing the legwork, if you will, to prepare a plan and follow all of the legal requirements of the state and federal government, and then we'll have appropriate public comment period, and I'm going to cover that, by the way, and to where you can get presented a plan and ultimately approve a plan as a body by the deadlines, and it is very tight. But I was going to summarize the calendar, but if that answers your question, we will just prepare that, get public input, and go to you as a full jury, and have discussions with you, of course, and which we have been doing about your respective areas, and we will continue to do that.
And that's why I was wondering, Mr. Cole, for me, with the Justice Department, the deadlines that we have for this tight schedule and everything.
Yes, Mr. Sias. Essentially, the deadlines are what drive this unfortunately tight schedule. Some of you, Dr. Mackey, Ms. Trimmy, some of you may recall that in 1991, the jury did not complete its redistricting and it did not hold its election in time. So this very tight schedule has been formulated with all of the applicable state and federal deadlines in mind so as to ensure that does not happen again.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for answering my question.
Okay, don't run off yet.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Mr. Guidry.
No, thank you, Mr. President, but I think Brian answered the question that I was actually going to end up asking Mr. Cole, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, Mr. Bean, would you like to?
I'll just quickly summarize this because it is important that you know the deadlines, and I would ask, I guess, as a part of this motion, which is to hire Sigler and Associates, Cade specifically, to accept the calendar as proposed so that we all know
Put that
our
in my motion.
deadlines.
Okay.
But just very quickly, let me say, hot off the presses, we got the census information today. The whole package will come tomorrow as far as the building blocks, which are called census blocks, that allow us to build these districts. But the parish population for 2010, from the 2010 census is 192,768. 192,768. That represents a growth of right at 5% from the current official census number of 183,577. That's the 2000 census number. Now, in 2009, the estimate for the parish, I think, was about 187,000. So it's higher than that, but that is now official. So you'll hear more as early as tomorrow, but you probably won't be getting that on, if you go to the census website for the U.S. Census, a lot of this information is not on there yet. That doesn't come out until April, but because they know several states have to comply with pre-clearance and all, they give us the raw data to start building these districts. So I just wanted to throw that in. And that's about 5,000 people over that estimate in 2009. But looking forward, over the next couple of weeks, within 10 days to 2 weeks, a lot of our staff is involved with this. It isn't just Mr. Cole. The whole GIS department gets this data, puts it in table form, and puts it in the precincts that already exist. And our plan is to come back to you on February 16th at your regular meeting. Cade will go into a little detail about what Mr. Sias is asking, and he'll explain what exactly is needed for redistricting. In a nutshell, redistricting, and you might hear the word reapportionment, is required every 10 years after the census is out to draw districts that comply with state and federal laws, mainly because of one man, one vote, which means you're going to have an equal number of people in each district within 5% either way, and that's a challenge. But because we're also a voting rights state, there are some pre-clearance things that the U.S. Department of Justice requires regarding minority representation and some other things, and Mr. Cole will get into that more on the 16th. But you have to start off by declaring through resolution that you would be what's called malapportioned. And that simply means that the plan we have in place today will have to be reapportioned, and that's where they get the word, to comply with these laws. And if I go any further, I'll get out of line. I'll let Cade handle that. But you're going to have to do that before anything else. We will then prepare a plan with all of this data for your consideration, and then on March the 24th, present that plan in the form of an ordinance and maps and tables, and all that information will be presented at the meeting. Of course, we'll be discussing this with you in the interim. There will be a public comment period, and we want to make sure the public knows about this. We'll promote that, get the awareness, any comments they have on this. Keep in mind the state legislature and others like Bessie Board and Public Service Commission and even all the way up through Congress are having to do this as well. But the legislature and the police jury are really on a tight time schedule. What's really important, and I would ask the help of jurors, is that if you know of anybody that is planning to comment or have input on this plan, it's critical they do so by April the 7th. That is really when we would like to have you have a consensus plan that's ready to go, because it takes a lot of work to prepare a plan and get it ready for your final adoption on April 21st. That's really when we'd have to do it, but we can't change a whole lot without preparing the actual document, which is very thick. So April 7th is very critical in that sense. The April 29th deadline to submit the approved plan, if you'll read the bottom, I won't go through all that, but if anybody's thinking that seems kind of early, it really isn't. And it mirrors exactly what the state's plan is. Many of you know that on February 22nd, The legislature is having a public hearing at the Civic Center, I think at 10 o'clock. They're going all around the state to get input on the legislative districts. They are following this calendar, and their election, just like police jury elections, is October 22nd. Well, the reason it's important to do it this early is because of the pre-clearance requirement at the federal level. You have to give them 60 days. But if they have any issue, any question that they have to submit for further clarification, they can add another 60 days. So if we have any sort of issue that would delay that, or a challenge that forces us to delay, it really throws it off. So April is very important. And if you look ahead, the remainder of the calendar is simply the deadlines for qualifying for police jury elections and the actual election dates themselves. But we feel very confident that we can do this. Cade has a lot of experience in this. As Mr. McMillan pointed out, he's very sharp, very familiar with this parish, very familiar with how these things work, and he knows all the wrinkles about what's required in state and federal law. So we'll come back to you on the 16th with a little more information.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Mr. Farnham?
Thank you, Mr. President. I got a couple of questions. One of them, the official number is 192.7. What do you feel like the percent of error is? Everybody knows that there's a lot of people that don't report the census. Do they feel like it's a pretty high number, or did we have a good turnout in Calcasieu?
I believe Jason reported on that a while back. We had a better turnout this time than in 2000. So thanks to some awareness. I don't have a percentage error. I know some areas of the country inevitably will challenge the results.
I guess the gut feeling is that did we have more people move here, or do we have more people report? Do we actually have a growth in the parish?
Mr. Farnham, if Brian doesn't mind, I think the important thing about the numbers are we are exceeding expectations.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming in about 5,000 people above the most recently formulated census estimate. If you look at the eastern parishes of Louisiana, what's been found is that they came in significantly below expectations. Not only did Orleans and Jefferson Parish, for example, lose population over the decade, they lost population by more than 10,000 people from the estimate of last year. Okay. So I think compared to that, we've done very well here to have grown by about 5%. And may I say, for the jury's stewardship of the unincorporated area, almost all of that population growth occurred in the unincorporated area, as many of you might expect. So for your stewardship of that portion of our parish, almost the entirety of that 10,000 population growth occurred in those areas.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
Second part of the question
ahead.
was, it looks like we're due to have a plan presented to us. When could we expect a first draft of the plan to come to where we can see what's going on? Because I, for one, really don't want to be at the last minute to have a plan thrown in front of me and expect to pass it just that quick. So
probably, Mr. Farnham, a week to 10 days prior to March 24th, we will communicate with you either through sitting down in groups and or sending out the plan so you have time to digest it. And I'll be the first to tell you this. If there was a better way to do this with more time, we'd do it. 10 years ago, we had plenty of time, but
and I fully understand.
But we will get you. We won't be showing you that, of course, that night for the first time. So you'll have some time.
We'll have some groups to get together and look at it.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Farnham. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Trimmy, and added in that motion to accept the calendar, correct? Yes. Okay, and I have a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Item 17 will carry. Item 18, consideration of adopting a resolution approving an updated consolidated contract between the police jury and AFSCME local number 1377, inclusive of all previously approved amendments to the contract. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 19, Consideration of adopting a resolution approving a joint services agreement between the police jury and the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office for a full-time security deputy for the Business and Career Solutions Center. Have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion, item carries. Item 20, consideration of
Move on 20.
resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the Southwest Louisiana Area Health Education Center for nursing and clerical services. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Ms. Trimmy. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 21, consideration of approving a joint services agreement between the police jury and other parish agencies which will provide for those agencies to utilize the parish telephone and computer system. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 22, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a contract between the police jury, Office of Juvenile Justice Services, and Big Brothers Big Sisters to provide mentoring services to the clients of the OJJS involved in the juvenile justice system. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 23, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and F. Miller Construction, LLC, to provide temporary construction right-of-way access for construction of the I-210 Pier 24 and 25 projection project. Have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 24, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the request of the Board of Commissioners of Waterworks District Number 8 of Ward 3 and 8 and fixing the per diem to be paid to each commissioner in the amount of $100 for each meeting attended. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 25, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a contract for architectural services between the police jury and Jeff Cudler, AIA, LLC, for the plans and specifications related to the Ward 3 Fire Protection District Number 2 Fire Station modifications. I have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 26, take appropriate action on the bids received by the parish purchasing agent on January 19, 2011 for the following.
Move on 26.
Two 2011 1/2-ton regular cab short wheelbase fleet side pickup trucks for use by mosquito control. Creosote bridge lumber, sign blanks, sign face and sheeting, materials pavement marketing, metal signpost, and Category 6 FTP cable. I have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 27, take appropriate action on bids received by the parish purchasing agent to January 24, 2011 for food commodities. Staff recommends that the bid be rejected and requests permission to re-advertise. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Fornham. Is there any discussion? Mr. Scott.
Yes, this is the second time this has been rejected. What are these food commodities? Where they're going that nobody wants to sell them to us?
Mary Flavin Purchasing can answer that.
Mary.
They're playing rock, paper, scissors for it.
Right now, they're for juvenile justice services, but they have to explain them with the bidding.
Dane Boland, Director of the Office of Juvenile Justice Services, and probably for the record, Mary could probably answer us a little bit better than I could, but this is the third time actually that we have sought bids for the actual food products that are delivered to the juvenile center. Been a couple of complications due to them not preparing the forms correctly, and so we have to start the process over again.
So it's just not a hard time getting lobster or something like that?
No, those don't come in very well.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Dane. Mr. Scott, that good? Okay, is there any further discussion? Any objection? Item 27 carries. We'll go to item 28, take appropriate action of the bids received by the Parish Purchasing Agency on February 2nd, 2011 for Calcasieu Parish, project number 2011-01.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Staley and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 29, consideration
Move on
of
29.
adopting a resolution
Second.
approving the submittal of the following names to the governor's office as nominees to serve on the newly established Chenier Plain Coastal Restoration and Protection Authority. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Spell. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I realize that this board's going to be very important to the coastal area of southwest Louisiana. A lot of great names on this board. I happen to know one guy on there is from my district, O.C. Norton, who's an engineer. I know that I would hope that we could put a chip on his side because O.C.'s a guy that I work with. He's very diligent and a hard worker, and I'd just like to go on record as saying that if the governor's office is going to pick this committee of three, I'm hoping that O.C. will be one of them because he's a good young man with an engineering degree, and I know he would work real hard for this parish. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Spell.
And I would like to concur with my colleague. I think engineering background would be very beneficial in this application. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Spell. Is there any other discussion? Any objection?
Mr. Brain.
Go ahead, Mr. Bean.
This will make Mr. Spell feel better, but there is a requirement that there is at least one engineer on this board. So
That makes me very
we
happy.
had to comply with that.
All right,
Not a
thank-
room full, Mr. Antrobont.
I'm not knocking engineers. If you happen to be one, then the shoe fits, wear it.
I'm gonna stay out of that one.
I respect Mr. Antrobont, my colleague in this.
All right,
Moving right along.
we're gonna move to item 30. Take appropriate action to fill a vacancy.
Got to vote on it.
No action on 30.
On 29, we never voted on it.
On 29, I'm sorry. Okay, is there any discussion, any objection on item 29? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 30, take appropriate action to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Gavin Abshire as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Gravity Drainage District Number 8 of Ward 1.
No action necessary. At the bottom.
Okay.
Move on to item 31.
Okay, we're going to go to item 31. Item 30, no action necessary. 31, take appropriate action to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Mr.
Move to
Danny
appoint
Wells
Mr. Tim Hall.
as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Community Center and Playground District Number 4 of Ward 1. I have a motion by Mr. Spell and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. 32, take appropriate action to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Harold Doucette as a member of the Calcasieu Parish Planning and Zoning Board.
Move to appoint Mr. Webb.
I have a motion by Mr. Spell to reappoint Mr. Webb, or appoint Mr. Webb. I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stelly, any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll go to item 33. Take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Dr. Harold G. Edwards
Move to reappoint Dr.
as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Memorial Hospital Service District. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 33, take appropriate action on the,
Move to reappoint Mr. Tumanelli.
Second.
let's see, where am I here?
Memorial Hospital Board.
34, I'm sorry, I was reading 33. 34, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Tommy Tumanelli, Sr. as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Memorial District Service District. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Farnham. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 35, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Dr. John F. Moffitt as a member of the Airport Authority of Airport District Number 1. I have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Dr. Mackey to defer for 30 days. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 36, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Brian Corbella as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Waterworks District Number 14 of Ward 5. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 37, take appropriate action of the expiration of
I'd like to reappoint.
Second.
the term of Mr. Clifton David as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Gravity Drainage District Number 6 of Ward 5 and 6. A motion by Ms. Trimmy to reappoint and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 38, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Sam Berwick
Second.
as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Gravity Drainage District Number 6 of Ward 5 and 6. A motion by Ms. Trimmy to reappoint and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 39, take appropriate action on
Move
the
to reappoint.
expiration of the term of Mr. Cade Cole as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Gravity Drainage District Number 6 of Ward 5 and 6. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 40, take appropriate action to appoint members to serve on the board of the Children and Youth Planning Board as follows. I have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, Mr. Beam, I'd like to call on you.
Just a quick announcement for those of you who weren't aware, the offices of the police jury will be closed tomorrow. Mr. Brame and I spoke earlier today, and it's due to inclement weather, and that's pretty much across the board with all the public agencies.
Do we need a motion for that? No?
No, sir. Just need to
Just
make
need
sure your president's okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved to adjourn.
Would you guys like to speak, Mr. Landry?
Y'all be careful.
I made the motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion by Mr. Landry to adjourn. Have a second. We are adjourned.